Billionaire played Squid Game with black waitresses. The end will shock you. What if 3 hard-working waitresses were suddenly dragged into a twisted game by a billionaire who thought money could measure a person's worth? The Atlanta skyline sparkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Waitresses headquarters, a sleek monolith of glass and steel that screamed wealth. Inside, the gala was in full swing, a who's who of tech moguls, influencers, and investors. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over tables draped in white linen, where caviar and truffle-dusted hors d'oeuvres disappeared as fast as the waitstaff could deliver them. Tiana Jackson moved with quiet precision, balancing a tray of champagne flutes. At 28, she was the anchor of her family, the one who kept the lights on and her younger brother Marcus's medical bills paid. His sickle cell anemia had drained their savings, and every shift she worked was a step toward keeping him alive. Her warm brown eyes scanned the room, catching snippets of laughter and deals being struck. She didn't belong here, but she was used to that. Growing up in a cramped apartment in East Atlanta, she'd learned to navigate spaces where she was invisible, until someone needed a refill. Rochelle Carter, 32, worked the other side of the room, her braids pulled into a tight bun that matched her no-nonsense demeanor. She'd been a paralegal once, fighting for tenants facing eviction in Atlanta's gentrifying neighborhoods. But after a public clash with a corrupt landlord went viral and cost her job, she'd landed here, serving canapés to the same kind of people she used to challenge. Her sharp wit and unyielding sense of justice simmered beneath her polite smile, but her hands trembled slightly as she poured wine, a reminder of the anger she kept locked away. Kemi Adebayo, 24, was the youngest, her quick laugh and bright energy lighting up the room despite her exhaustion. She'd been a chemistry major at Spelman, dreaming of a lab coat and a career in pharmaceuticals, until her parents' deportation to Nigeria forced her to drop out to support her younger siblings. Now, she juggled 2 jobs and sent money overseas, her dreams deferred but not forgotten. Her nimble fingers arranged dessert plates, but her mind drifted to the textbooks she still read late at night, hoping for a way back. The 3 women didn't know each other well, but they shared an unspoken bond, the weight of being black women in a world that rarely saw them as more than labor. Tonight, they were just the help, until Preston Vane decided otherwise. Preston Vane, 45, stood at the center of the room, his tailored suit and boyish grin masking the ruthlessness that had built his $10 billion empire. Waitresses' AI-driven logistics software had revolutionized shipping, and tonight's gala was meant to celebrate the company's upcoming IPO. But Preston had other plans. He thrived on spectacle, and he'd grown bored with the usual gala fare. As the clock struck 10 p.m., he tapped his glass, silencing the room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth as whiskey, "tonight isn't just about toasting success. It's about testing strength. I've designed a little entertainment. A game, inspired by a show you all know." The crowd chuckled, assuming he meant Squid Game, the viral series that had captivated the world. "But my version has higher stakes, and $1 million prize." The guests gasped, leaning forward. Preston's eyes scanned the room, landing on Tiana, Rochelle, and Kemi. "Our players," he said, gesturing to them, "are the women who've served you tonight. Let's give them a hand." The applause was polite but uneasy. Tiana froze, her tray wobbling. Rochelle's jaw tightened, and Kemi's smile faltered. They hadn't signed up for this. A staff member ushered them to a stage at the front, where 3 podiums awaited, each with their name on it. The crowd's curiosity turned to excitement, but the women felt a chill. This wasn't a game. It was a spotlight, and they were the prey. Preston explained the rules. 3 rounds, each designed to reveal character. The winner would walk away with $1 million, no strings attached. Refuse to play, and you'd leave with nothing. The women exchanged glances, their instincts screaming to walk away, but the promise of the money, a life-changing sum, kept them rooted. Game 1, Tiana's Sacrifice. The first game was called The Choice. A screen behind Preston lit up with a photo of Marcus, Tiana's brother, in a hospital bed. The crowd murmured, uncomfortable but intrigued. Preston's voice was almost gentle. "Tiana, you've given everything for your brother. This game is simple, sacrifice something else." 2 items appeared on her podium, a locket with a photo of her late mother and a contract promising to cover Marcus's medical bills for life. "Choose one," Preston said. "The locket goes to charity, or the contract is void." Tiana's breath caught. The locket was her last tangible connection to her mother, who died when she was 16. But the contract meant Marcus could live without her working herself to death. The crowd watched, some whispering, others filming. Tiana's hands shook as she reached for the contract, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered, pushing the locket away. The crowd clapped, but it felt hollow. Tiana's heart twisted. She'd won, but at what cost? Game 2, Kemi's Dreams. Kemi's game was the trade-off. The screen showed her old Spellman ID, her face beaming with hope. Preston's smile was sharp. "Kemi, you gave up college for your family. Now, you can have it back." A scholarship offer to return to Spellman appeared, fully funded. But there was a catch: she'd have to cut off all contact with her siblings for 5 years. Kemi's laugh was bitter. "You think I'd abandon them?" she said, her voice shaking. The crowd leaned in, sensing drama. Preston raised an eyebrow. "It's your dream, isn't it? Or was it never that important?" Kemi's fists clenched. She thought of her siblings' faces, their late-night calls, their trust in her. She thought of the lab coat she'd never wear. "My family is my dream," she said, tearing the scholarship offer in half. The crowd gasped, some cheering, others shaking their heads. Kemi stood tall, but her chest ached. She'd chosen love over ambition. Again. Game 3, Rochelle's Justice. Rochelle's game was the confession. The screen played a clip of her viral confrontation with the landlord, her voice fierce as she called out his predatory tactics. Preston's tone was mocking. "Rochelle, you're a fighter. But fighters fall. Confess to a lie you told during that scandal, or we'll expose one for you." Rochelle's blood ran cold. She hadn't lied, but the threat hung heavy. The crowd whispered, eager for dirt. She knew Preston could fabricate something. His resources were endless. She thought of the tenants she'd fought for, the families still in their homes because of her. "I didn't lie," she said, her voice steady. "And I won't let you rewrite my truth." Preston smirked. Bold choice. He waved a hand, and the screen went blank. The crowd was silent, unsure if she'd won or lost. Rochelle's heart pounded, but she refused to break. The games grew darker, the crowd's excitement more voyeuristic. By the third round, the women were exhausted, their emotions raw. Preston announced the final game, the price of pride. Each woman would face a personal humiliation, tailored to their deepest insecurities. Complete it, and the $1 million was theirs. Refuse, and they'd walk away with nothing. Kemi was asked to apologize publicly for wasting her potential, admitting she'd never be more than a waitress. Rochelle was told to bow to a guest, a known real estate tycoon who'd profited off evictions, and thank him for his generosity. Tiana's task was the worst: reenact a moment from her childhood, begging on her knees for food stamps, while the crowd watched. Kemi's voice broke as she began her apology, but she stopped mid-sentence, shaking her head. "No. I'm enough." Rochelle stared at the tycoon, her fists clenched, and turned away. "I bow to no one." Tiana, though, was the breaking point. She looked at the podium, the spotlight burning into her skin. She thought of Marcus, of the hospital bills, of the life she could give him. Then she thought of her mother's voice, telling her to stand tall. She stepped back from the podium, her eyes locked on Preston's. "I'm done," she said, her voice clear and unshaken. "If you think we're just here to be watched, you've already lost." The room fell silent. The crowd shifted, some shocked, others ashamed. Preston's smile faltered, just for a moment. Tiana walked off the stage, Rochelle and Kemi following. The crowd parted, their applause hesitant but growing. The women left the gala, heads high, leaving the $1 million behind. The next morning, Atlanta buzzed with news. Vainteca's IPO was cancelled, no explanation given. Social media exploded with clips of Tiana's final words, shared by guests who'd recorded the event. The hashtag Stand Tall trended worldwide, with people praising the women's courage and condemning Preston's cruelty. Behind closed doors, Preston was a different man. He sat in his office, replaying Tiana's words. He'd built his empire on control, on bending people to his will. But these women he'd dismissed as props, had exposed his game for what it was, a hollow display of power. For the first time, he saw himself through their eyes. Quietly, he contacted his lawyers. By noon, every participant's debts, medical bills, student loans, mortgages, were paid off. Tiana's brother was enrolled in a cutting-edge treatment program. Kemi received a scholarship to Spelman, no strings attached. Rochelle was offered a position at a non-profit fighting housing injustice, funded by Vane Tech. Then, Preston announced a new foundation to support women of color in service industries, with a $100 million endowment. He didn't attend the press conference. He didn't explain his change of heart. But Tiana, Rochelle, and Kemi knew. They'd seen the crack in his armor, the moment his game turned inward. 6 months later, Tiana sat with Marcus in their new apartment, his laughter filling the room as he recovered. Kemi was back at Spelman, her lab coat finally within reach. Rochelle led a campaign that saved a historic black neighborhood from demolition. They never spoke of that night, but they carried it with them, a reminder that their worth wasn't defined by a billionaire's game. Preston Vane disappeared from the public eye, his foundation run by others. Some said he was ashamed. Others said he was searching for something he'd lost long before that night. But the women knew the truth. They'd shown him what strength really looked like. And the world, watching their story, learned it too.